I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council Workshop for June 17th, 2026. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy, Peterson.
Here.
Stanton.
Here. Councilperson Muncy has asked for an accommodation for a medical need that is having him decide to take the meeting from home.
Okay.
Did someone make a motion and?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Voice vote or roll call, Jamie?
Roll call. Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes. Motion carries. So Gregory, I think you're on. You will be able to participate. Okay, that takes us to agenda changes. Are there any? All right, we have no guest speakers. That takes us to public comment on agenda items only. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to make a public comment? All right, seeing none, I don't think anyone in the room is here. That closes that, and we'll get to action items, which is approval of the regular city council meeting minutes from June 8th. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the regular city council meeting minutes from June 8th as presented in our packet.
Second.
Any corrections? All right, roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Gregory, you can vote. Is he on Zoom?
Peterson,
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
I don't see his name on Zoom.
All right, okay. I'm just texting him. All right. Okay, that will bring us to discussion items, and the first is the pallet themed bike rack. Ryan, do you want to tee that up?
I'm gonna turn that over to Mark to kind of tee up along with Ashley. Yep.
Yeah, so the pallet theme bike rack, obviously was designed and built by the high school here in Saugatuck. It's quite a remarkable bike rack. When I first saw it, it was laying in the shop, and then when I saw a picture of it, I was like, okay, now it makes sense to me what this is. That was the PPW committee. They kind of went around looking to figure out where we needed a bike rack purpose and where it would fit best. And we figured out we're at Coughlin Park, right off of Culver there, to be able to put the bike rack there. There's a couple of benches in that area right now. If we move the benches, we can set that bike rack facing traffic that comes down the road. We looked at putting it like facing the road directly, but the bikes would stick into the walkway on the sidewalk. So we're gonna either angle it a certain way or just put it facing the traffic is what my recommendation is for that.
Question, comment?
No, I think it's fantastic. I saw the one in Douglas and I was jealous, and I was so glad when you presented at PPW to let us know this was happening. And great job to the students that designed this and then went through with the fabrication of it. It's just really, really fantastic. And we picked Coughlin Park. PPW did. I think we already have cement in that space, right? So we don't have to pour additional cement. And it's a great coming into town. It's going to be a great place to be on display. So that's why Coughlin was chosen.
Great. Questions, comments? Absolutely great. Russ?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. As an avid cyclist, I'm excited to see this. Just to make sure I understand, so the cement that it will be placed on, is that, wasn't clear to me from the comments, is that the one that was just recently poured next to Scooters? Or is it one across the street that's already in Coughlin Park?
Across the street right next to Coughlin Park.
Okay.
There's brick pavers and just concrete there. We'll be able to attach it right to that.
Okay. All right, because we just put in a brand new rack across the street, I think a 12 bike rack, if I
Okay.
remember correctly. So anyway, I'm excited about this, just, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take into consideration, see where that 12 rack is. I'm not familiar with that myself, but.
Yeah, I think it's a 12 bike rack. It's right next to Scooters, so it's black if you take a look for it, so.
Great.
I have one thing to add.
Yeah.
PW asked about signage or plaque of some kind, so I'm working on that. That will thank the students.
Oh, nice.
So that will be added later, but it's in the works. And the CB will cover that.
Maybe after the branding.
Oh,
Mayor
sure.
Anderson.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Councilmember Muncie's online.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One last comment question, actually. I think this was Vince Heiser's class that did this, so just to acknowledge that this is the third project they've worked on, the other two being the Star up on Mount Baldhead, which gets a lot of visibility, and then also the Root Beer Barrel, they did the base for that. So Vince and his class have just been wonderful in terms of supporting some of these projects. So I just want to thank Mr. Heiser, who I'm assuming is not listening, but when I see him next, I'm going to thank him again, so.
Great. Well, that takes us to discussion item B, survey results and updated plan for the proposed warming station. Thank you, Ashley.
I'm much shorter than most, I think.
And for everyone, I don't know if you heard Jamie, Gregory's on the phone, so.
Okay, great.
And this is on page 9 of our agenda.
So you are all familiar with this project because my predecessor, Lisa Mize, has brought this to you a few times, and people have been rumbling about it ever since. As you'll see from the survey results, some positive, some constructive, but the survey was requested by you all. So it was completed back in November. All of the responses are in the packet. There were a couple updates to the plan, so I included the new rendering, but a couple things I'll go over is previously Lisa was planning to purchase the actual fire source sculptural part where the fire would be, but it wasn't the right size. It wouldn't fit what the fire chief needed. So we decided to fabricate our own. So we're using the same metal fabrication company that just did the fire pits at the Holland Ice Rink.
Has this been ordered?
No, nope, just designed. And I do have those renderings for you to see, but it looks very similar to the one previously shown. So it has the metal bars kind of like stacked vertically, just like the one previously. The thing that you won't see in this rendering because it would just make it hard to see is this one incorporates a mesh or like a perforated metal inside of that area so that nobody could put their hand directly in the fire. And that of course was required for safety purposes. Still deciding what material exactly that's going to be. We have some samples ordered that the Chief Janik wanted to look at and approve which one he wanted, depending on how big the holes were and all of that. So I wanted to say that that's been updated, but other than that, the plan is pretty much the same as before. It's that concrete bench wall, replacing where the fence is currently, the fire pits in the same location. The garden itself will be untouched. All of the flowers will remain. We will add some new plantings near the exterior by the wall, but the roses will definitely all stay.
Great. Questions, comments, Chris?
Madam Mayor, thank you. You said that I talked to Chief Janik yesterday. He said he hadn't seen anything. Did you get something to him between then and now?
He hasn't seen the samples, but he's seen these drawings and
You never brought him anything. So maybe there's a miscommunication there.
Possibly.
Because he said before this goes forward, there has to be a fire department review of the whole thing, as
Yes.
well as the mechanical department review because of the gas line.
yes, I am aware of all of that. Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then.
But it's my understanding this was the first step, I thought.
Okay, then I wanted to thank whoever put this together because it reminded me of a lot of the discussions we had, and then also to the PPW committee because they had some wonderful suggestions.
Mhm.
Number one, the no cost, will there be cost to the public? Or not to the public, to us, to the city?
No, originally the CVB was hoping to partner with the city on this and maybe some private donors, but our board at our last board meeting voted to cover the entire project.
Okay, then the PPW brought up about need a clear maintenance plan with costs, who will oversee the project, local talent. They thought local talent should design this,
Yeah.
which I think would be wonderful. We have some wonderful metal artists in town.
Mhm.
I think that would be great. And then the consultants who came in, were any of them from Saugatuck?
We hired outside consultants who were part of a group of people who did the shoulder season subcommittee. That's what you're talking about? Yes. Yes. So yes, there were local people on
And
that
you
group.
made recommendations to us and to Douglas. What was recommended? Was a fire pit recommended to Douglas too?
Yes, theirs has already been approved. Yeah, it's going in front of Happy Stance.
Oh,
On that
okay.
corner.
Yep.
On the
Yeah.
corner.
There's a tree there right now. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
The only comment I have is it's not on our priority list.
Yep.
And as we hear, if it's not our priority list, we have to take something off to move forward. So I'll just let that hang out there. Thank you.
I'll build on Councilman Peterson's point. With CBB covering the entire cost, I guess, is there even a rough estimate on how much staff time this will take our staff? Because I am mindful to your point, Chris, about, our priorities and, you guys have a lot on your plate. Mark and Brian, I'll welcome any concerns you may have about this throwing you guys off task, even though it's being covered cost-wise by the CBB. I'm just interested in your thoughts, both of yours.
Yeah, I mean, we've been spending, obviously it's been in front of council a couple of times and there hasn't been, any direction that there's not interest in pursuing it. So we have been, already spending, staff time on it. And so that should be accounted for, that we've already kind of are a bit invested in this already. Doesn't mean that you can't change directions if you so choose. At this point, the CVB, continues to handle all the project management and has obtained all the plans and would be, obtaining the bids. I mean, obviously there's some additional pieces that, we may need to look at, whether or not we need any, I'm hearing today, obviously there's not a request for anything financial. I know, Scott, when he was here, was kind of evaluating any like ongoing staff needs just to kind of make sure that the area stays shoveled and that we have snow cleared from this area so folks have access to it and that sort of thing. So I don't anticipate that'll be real extensive. Mark's shaking his head that it wouldn't be. Obviously there would be some involvement in reviewing the plans with our engineers and public works to make sure that, we're accounting for any utility issues and that we're comfortable with, the plans as presented. So there's going to be some additional staff time, but as long as the CVB continues to kind of manage the project, oversee construction, that will be minimized greatly through that.
And, okay, thank you for that. I guess my second question is, under the very generous allocation of funds to maintain the Rose Garden, I'm assuming that those funds would be eligible to take care of the ongoing upkeep. Once again, thank you to the CVB for offering to pay for the whole thing, but obviously there's long-term maintenance costs, and I'm assuming that would fall within the budget for the Rose Garden? Am I mistaken?
Yeah, I mean, long-term, are those initial dollars that were put aside to help maintain the Rose Garden, we still do have some funds, left. Obviously, there's a large sum that helped build the Rose Garden and then maintain it since then through, its contractual services. And so those funds have continued to kind of go down and down and down. We probably have a few more years on those, but even those funds aren't gonna be there forever to even just maintain what we have currently. So yes, there might be some general fund, impact if there's future maintenance needs that are needed.
Okay, that leads me to my final question, actually, given the funds are going down. Obviously, I think the big sticking point and then the big controversy here is the wrought iron fence that a lot of people are quite fond of. And, I recognize that as a valid point, that people do like that more traditional wrought iron look. Having said that, I can't remember how much we paid to get it repainted a few years ago, but that's a fairly intense maintenance need as well. Which leads me then, balancing all these things to look at the survey results, and it looks like the business community is very positively predisposed toward this in terms of providing a focal point and more energy in the shoulder season and even the winter months. So I think I'm inclined, based on all these facts, to look upon this project favorably when it comes to a vote, based on what I've heard from everyone so far this afternoon.
I'm definitely in favor of going forward with this project. convention and visitors bureaus across the state and across the country are trying to find ways to take those assessment dollars that we collect here in town from our tourists to be able to do infrastructure projects. So not just marketing and promotions and those types of things, but actually adding to the communities by doing infrastructure projects and paying for different things at parks and things that, you know, cities don't always have the money for. So the fact that the Convention and Visitors Bureau is willing to put money forward for something like this as you know, as a feature in the shoulder seasons. I think it would be lovely in the winter. It's going to be lovely in the fall. And especially, you know, those chilly springtime days when people are out there with either hot chocolate or coffee or hanging out, having ice cream in the summertime. I just think it'll really create a nice gathering space right there. And especially, I'm either way with the fence. I do like the idea of having an area where people can sit down and have more space for people to sit around that area. If there's a way to combine the two, I would be fine with that. But otherwise, I like the fact that people can sit there and have ice cream or have hot chocolate and be kind of gathering in that spot. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this. Douglas is already moving forward, and I would like to see Saugatuck move forward as well. Joe?
Pretty much took the words out of my mouth. I mean, the fact that it, you know, is intended to support our shoulder season, I think is, you know, an absolute yes for me. The fact that, you know, we got such strong support from the community makes this a no-brainer in my mind, especially since there's not a big financial, you know, outtake. And then hearing that, I guess I would kind of phrase the question a little bit differently. It sounds like staff can accommodate, you know, the work that's going to go in and the ongoing maintenance without really impacting any of our priorities. I think that's what kind of where you were going with your conversation. And if that's the case, then yeah, I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah, as long as our role continues to be kind of just reviewing of plans, making sure that, you know, there's no, you know, significant impacts and the project management is staying with the CVB, then yes, I do agree with it. Obviously, we'll have some construction oversight that we'll want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on things too. But other than that, beyond that, once it's constructed, the day-to-day, you know, maintenance of it, you know, snow removal is going to be the biggest piece in the near term. You know, eventually, yes, there'll be probably some maintenance costs and repair costs, but I think they're going to be further down the road.
Can I make a comment?
Yes. One thing I forgot to mention, Jason Dedick from JPD Construction has offered to manage this project for me, which I'm so grateful for because I'm not a construction manager. I've gotten all the bids and done all of that work, but I'm happy to, once it's approved, hand it off to him to complete the job. So I'm sure the city's worked with him before and he would be a great partner in getting it accomplished.
Great. Russ, any comments from you?
Yeah, first I want to say thank you, Ashley, for being here today. And appreciate the comments and appreciate the offer of CVB to fund this. I'm not a go on this yet for several reasons. And the survey results were pretty enlightening, even though we had a pretty high percentage of business owners saying that this would be a positive. I'm in support of the concept of this. I mean, Fenville's got one, Holland has had one for a number of years. Don't know about other communities in the area. My concerns are, and some of this was brought up in the survey results too, is that the Rose Garden is not the location for this, in my opinion. That is not an expendable place, meaning that it was designed specifically for a peaceful memorial for the Mize family when they donated the money to the city. That was in its intent, and this goes against that intent. Fence aside, it goes against the intent of what the Mize family had intended when they donated the money to the city for the development of that. We have other locations in town, which I think are a better fit. I'm also concerned about the fact that this has been mentioned by Councilmember Dean and Councilmember Peterson. This is not a project on our list. And despite our efforts to say today that it's going to be minimal impact to the city staff, I think it's going to be more than what we think. We just don't have experience with this. I think it's going to make time for Mark and his staff to have to maintain this. I'd like to get some information from other communities that have these in place. What type of time and effort does it take to actually maintain these? The expectation is that a visitor comes to town on a cold evening and it's not on, the question is going to be, why isn't this thing on? So I think there's just some things we have to figure out how that all kind of works. And without dollars behind that, I'm just not comfortable, and I'm not comfortable with the location. The other thing that kind of strikes me about this is that we're talking about this being an economic driver for visitors. I do not think this is an economic driver for visitors. And this was brought out in the survey results too, is that really what we really need to focus on from a community standpoint is what's driving people to town in the shoulder seasons. The warming station will not drive people to town. It will be a nice benefit when they're here. But really what I'd like to see us do is, find events or programming, shopping promotions or other winter events that are gonna actually bring people to town. That's been the challenge in this community for a number of years, and several things have been tried. And I think this is not a driver for economic development. In addition to the other reasons I mentioned with the location and potential costs of the city, I'm just not in support. I'm in support of the concept. The warming station is a wonderful thing, but I'm just not in support of where we are in this at this point.
Anything else,
For those
Chris?
reasons.
I have one last comment, and I wasn't in favor of this to begin with. I think I've gotten more on board since then. But the thing I really would question is not having partial fence up between the sandbar and the opening. Even if you put the 3-foot high bench and then out in front and have the fence behind it, because you don't want people walking in and out of the flower garden that night. And then also, I really think it should be a local designer. That's all.
Gregory?
Yeah, when this idea first came out, I thought it was really, really cool. I'm sorry about my voice. And I really do like the concept. And I do like the sitting wall. I think a lot of how I feel really mostly aligns with what Lauren has to say about it. I have to agree, people aren't going to come to Saugatuck just because of a warming station like that. I don't find it as a particular draw. I find it as a an amenity, but not something that people would come to town for. And I think it's beautiful. In a way, I do think that it would be a nice, that the Rose Garden could use a little upgrade. However, the survey, and thank you, CVV. I think it's wonderful. The survey only had 171 participants. And I just don't feel that that's enough folks to understand how the community feels about it. So I don't know if I'd be ready to say yes to it right now. The idea of having it over here at Village Park, I think I would be more apt to say go for it. I'd love that idea. But to preserve the Rosa Mize and what she wanted for the town and her donation, I know the whole backstory because I tell it to locals all the time. I think I'd like to respect that a little bit more. And I'd like to learn more about what the community thinks rather than just 171 people that took that survey.
I'll just add, I think Lauren did a good job of summarizing where I am. I don't think the CVB, when I saw the presentation they did on shoulder season, I don't think anybody thought this would be an economic driver. It's sort of a nice it's a nice to have. So yeah, I am supportive of continuing to pursue this. So if I'm looking at our agenda, it looks like the next step, assuming there's consensus from council, is this would next go to PPW for their input.
Already did our input unless obviously we can continue to help through the process.
It was just to show the new design. That's
Okay.
why I believe.
Okay.
Brian, yeah.
Yeah, I think the design's been, my understanding is, the design's been updated since they last reviewed it. They haven't made a formal recommendation yet to council. Certainly have provided some input along the way, but maybe getting a final recommendation from them. Again, this is assuming at least a majority of you would like to see this move forward. The Historic District Commission is going to need to take a look at this and will be a key component in looking at their district guidelines. And then we can bring their thoughts back to a future workshop. Historic District, PPW, their recommendations, if we need any agreements, we'll draft those and bring those to you at a workshop, and then ultimately tee this up for a regular meeting vote.
I think what might be helpful is I've heard some things that are similar and some things that are different among us. And I'm just wondering if there is a consensus of areas where I think the most concern lies. If I'm hearing everybody correctly, it seems like everybody likes the idea of a warming station. I think people are generally comfortable with the cost because of this generous offer by the CVB. It seems to me that the biggest question mark is location.
I'm good with the location.
You're good with it, okay, but I'm hearing from some of our colleagues that that might be the major issue. I'm just wondering if it's worth the CVB, you've given us a design. And I think maybe it would be helpful to other members of council to understand the case for this corner. I think that, I mean, I'm inclined to approve it here, but I'm also open if the business community also says it could be equally effective in another part of the city, in the central business district. I'd be willing to listen to that argument.
Recap, because I think that you have looked at the different locations.
Yeah, no, we asked for renderings and Lisa said they chose not to do anything except you and Gregory and I asked for renderings, mainly the village square. And when they came back, Lisa said that they chose not to look at any other places except the Rose Garden.
Yeah, I think they considered locations, but only made renderings for that location, yes. Is he supposed to talk or am I supposed to?
Gregory?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, putting that over here at Village Park or at the memorial or that one of the corners there, the corner that doesn't have anything on it. I think especially during the winter time would attract people to come down this way. During the winter time, we don't get a whole lot of traffic this way when the park is closed and it's cold over here. People would give them a reason to walk down Butler Street and to check out some of the shops that are also on Water Street, that are on that corner over there. It could give the town a little bit more attention over here in the off season. There's already all kinds of traffic over there by the Rose Garden. So I can see some real advantages to having it over in the Village Park area.
Yeah, I don't want to create work for anybody, but that does seem to be kind of the big issue among this council. And I mean, I'm inclined to improve. If this came before me, I would be a yes to it, but I'm mindful of some of my colleagues' comments, and I wouldn't mind it, and I don't want to create more work for PPW if you guys have already kind of hashed it through in terms of location, but it does seem to be the sticking point here that I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more about, particularly if this is not, if the offer is good for a while and we're not on a tight deadline to, commission an artist, get things rolling. If we have a little bit of time, I wouldn't mind just, hearing a little bit more on location, but others may feel differently.
Yeah, no, I agree with Councilmember Dean. I think the only priority pressure here is coming from parties outside of city council. It's not the city's priority. It's not on our project list. So any pressure we may feel to get this done soon is a false pressure. I would like to see some renderings, as has been requested. I was one of the people that asked for the same thing that Councilmember Muncy and Peterson asked for as well. I think there are some other solutions, and ultimately, this is something we should be a 7-0 on. And we're not, for some very clear reasons. I would also like to understand and have Mr. Andersma do some, maybe just reaching out to some other communities that have had these for a number of years and really get a true sense of what the responsibility is going to be from a city standpoint to support this. Because once the CVB puts all its money into it and it's on, they're going after their next project, and then it becomes the city's responsibility. It's not going to be a volunteer effort. It's going to be the DPW staff doing whatever needs to be done to it. So I'd like to better understand what that commitment is going to look like from an hour and a dollar standpoint. And again, I'd like to be one of the people saying, yes, I support the plan. I can't support it the way it's looking today.
Lauren, anything from you?
I don't have anything further.
So
Excuse me. Go ahead. Kind of following on Councilmember Dean's protocol, is there any agreement looking into a local artist designing the fireplace, or are we going to go with what we have here?
I mean,
I'm just throwing that out because I know we have artists obviously that work a lot with metal, and if there's no desire to do that, that's fine.
Well, I can just speak to they're not artists per se, but my warming station subcommittee is Martin Horner from our board. He owns the Wickwood. I'm sure you're all familiar with him. He's an interior designer. And then also John Canarsa. So they designed this together. So again, not artists, but local folks did design how they wanted this to look.
So I guess what I want to make sure I understand. So it feels like we have, we have provided input. The CVB has considered the input and have come back with that their recommendation is still the Rose Garden. I don't want us to keep asking the same questions and getting the same answers. Actually, I mean, this is really what the CVB is prepared to donate?
Yes, yes.
That
Um,
location only?
That's my understanding. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but yeah, that was already brought up to the committee and these are the possible locations and the feedback was heard and this is what they were willing to offer.
It feels like the reason why it was chosen to be in that location, if it's at Village Square, that's not surrounded by people coming and going from restaurants in the winter. It's kind of a quiet time. We're trying to get people to be where the crowds already are or where the foot traffic already is. So it makes more sense to put it there than to have foot traffic down where people aren't walking
Right.
in the winter.
I mean,
or in the off season.
I think similar to it not being an economic driver, I don't know that it's a traffic driver either.
Yeah. People aren't gonna walk from the coffee shop all the way down to sit over there when the coffee shop is, a couple of coffee shops are closer to that area.
Well,
Yes.
see, this is the information I need to hear. I mean, because it's very interesting that the operator of the Wickwood was involved in this and presumably knows the location that's being proposed.
Mhm.
Yeah, his business is
Yeah.
down over
Trying
front
to
of that
get
way.
it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We wanted to place it where people would use it, and where
Okay,
people are
this-
shopping.
I'm sorry, this is sort of the advocacy I need to hear to understand, because I want to support the business community.
Mhm.
And if the business community feels that this is a location, the survey results I find are sufficient to be compelling. The willingness to pay is very compelling. So this helps get me to yes, and I mean, that's what I needed to hear. I just need the case
Mhm.
made for the location, and I'm starting to get that, so that's helpful.
Gregory?
I've heard a lot that's leaning me towards yes, but I'm really hoping that we don't get a whole lot of backlash about that wrought iron fence. Again, I get a lot from the survey, but again, Scott, there's only 171 people that took it. So I don't know how many people were aware of this survey, but it didn't get around to enough people for me to think that, there could be some kind of backlash. What comes to my mind is when we talked about the gazebo a few years back, and everybody that rallied to keep that old gazebo instead of having a new band shell. So, I just hate to have everybody upset about that wrought iron fence. And I just, like I said, I don't think 171 people were enough in that survey to get everybody's voice out.
Yeah, I can speak to the fence briefly, just from my understanding. But when the warming station was drummed up and to be placed in the Rose Garden, obviously we focused on the fire source first. And then they were like, but what about the rest? How do we activate this park more so that people can actually use it? And yes, people can actually use it right now. I didn't mean to, but people feel like they can use it, make it more inviting. So that's why they decided to recommend taking the fence down, making some extra entrances for visitors and residents to actually feel more invited into the garden. And then obviously just to create more seating. I mean, it's right across the street from Kilwins. I picture people sitting, eating their ice cream cones, drinking a coffee, husbands waiting for their wives to shop,
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm totally for the sitting wall. I talked about that. That's what I want. I love the design. I think it looks great. What I'm talking about is what most people want, and what most people are saying about that wrought iron fence. And I know how this town can be about tradition, and I respect that. So I'm not speaking on my own behalf about what I want, because, like I said, I like the design as it is. If it were up to me, I'd say, "Yep, right there. That's fine." I guess the village, I would have liked to see that drawing too, but it's a great donation. And I do feel that it does open up the garden to more people that would access it more often. So I agree with those things myself.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
In terms of partial fence, not only for the whole theme of the Rose Garden and who it was for and all of that wonderful information. But my concern is if there's just a 3-foot fence between the opening and the sandbar, there are going to be a lot of people walking that fence or hopping over it. And Lauren said she might be open to partial fence. So maybe on that first part between the sandbar and the opening, you have your 3-foot wall, but then the fence is right behind that.
Mhm.
Some way as a backup, because I think that might be an issue towards into the evenings in the summertime.
So, so it sounds like we have a consensus to send this, thank Ashley for all the great work and thanks to the CVB. Send this to PPW again to look and come up with a recommendation.
And I'd be happy to pass along a lot of the
I
comments.
saw row bridesmaids trying to stand on that.
It does sound like there is a consensus for that.
Is one other thing, Mayor, is it worth getting a view from the Historic District Commission?
Well,
Don- Don is
that
not-
would come after
Don is on the commission. so
That would
he'll
come
be
after
very well versed in
PPW
this. Yeah, so-
in the process.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the materials before I go to Historic
Okay.
District
So
Commission.
the process would be first PPW, then Historic District, then it would come back here again for a council workshop.
Mhm.
And then,
Where's the fire department and the mechanic?
well, she's working on that off, I mean.
Right. Well, I didn't want to waste his time if it was,
If
Get general
council were
consensus,
like,
yes,
no way,
exactly.
we're not
Yep.
doing this. She just didn't want to put.
he's a very busy man.
Russ?
Yeah.
Follow up on Councilmember Muncie's comments about the public's perception of this. 171 respondents does not represent anything close to a majority of people in town. And who knows who knows who those people were? Nothing against the respondents, but once we get to a final design, we get a 3D graphic of this. That's where I think the city has a responsibility to let the public know what this is going to be looking like. Because then they're going to tell you real quickly whether they agree with it or not, with the fence being removed. I mean, conceptually, we can talk about this all day. But if we go to a vote with a final plan and the public looks and says, I never even heard about this. And I know we do a lot of communication. We put a lot out there. But this is the kind of situation where I think because of the visibility, the emotion around it, we should be in front of this more once we get a final plan. Right now, it's very conceptual. But I think that would be important for the city to take a step to put that out there for folks, whether it's some kind of a poster board on the fence or some way to put it right out in front of people so they can walk by and see it, or see it in the paper, whatever, put it on the website. I think we need to make an extra effort on that.
I'll just say back from my market research days, actually, that's a pretty decent response rate for a survey. So
Yeah,
I know it's not, we'd love to hear from everyone, but
Yeah, I'm not even talking about the response rate. I just don't know who those folks were.
well,
No, I know we're getting ahead of it, Ashley, but I love the idea of having a rendering on the fence
Mhm.
or on the side of it. I don't know, I went to the Holland Ice Rink all the time and just going, oh, this is gonna be so cool. So this is one of those things that would be like,
yeah, right. Well, it sounds like Lauren has her marching orders with
And
PPW.
just one other not request, but maybe thing for PPW to consider is if we go forward, and I think there is a consensus building to go forward, a plan for the wrought iron fence, obviously repurposing, recycling, I was shocked, but I was thrilled when, somebody said they wanted the old bathroom at Mount Bolden Park and it got hauled away to live another day. So, I think perhaps a creative reuse or plan for the wrought iron, I think might help, win a few more hearts and minds on this project. So, yeah.
Great. Okay, let's move to, and thank you again, Ashley. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
To C, with a consent agreement for the fire department sewer connection, which is on page 26. Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And so the fire department is, as you know, is located along Blue Star. They currently have a smaller septic system, and they're interested in connecting to the sanitary sewer system. Unfortunately, there's not sewer available under Blue Star Highway right now. There's some future plans for that, but it still may be a ways away before that happens. Obviously, there's some sewer capacity factors with the township as well. And so under the existing sewer operations contract, there's some language that speaks to connecting on bordering roads, including Maple Street, where there's properties immediately adjacent to Maple Street. There's a mechanism for them to connect that they pay an out-of-city connection fee. But there's some limitations on that. It states that, essentially, if a property is beyond one residential lot deep, kind of offers a certain distance, or if it's a large acreage tract or beyond maybe even residential, that there's a consent agreement that's required in order to allow for the connection. So the fire department's made the request to connect on Maple. In order to do that, they would need some additional easement rights from the property owner to the west to go through their property to actually make the connection. My understanding is that they're having those discussions, not a guarantee. The fire department's essentially looking to install kind of a stub under Maple Street now, and then eventually connect in the future. And so with that, the fire department is asking that you consider waiving the necessary connection fees, given the the joint nature of the fire district and serving all of the communities and it being taxpayer funded and that sort of thing. The township and city have discussed kind of what that consent agreement would essentially look like. I think we have a framework that we're agreeable to, where at least for the immediate future, the sewer capacity for the fire district would actually count towards the cities. We have available sewer capacity. The township does not. We kind of discussed, obviously, future, if anything could happen. What if the fire district, were to expand the building, or what if there were to be changes where a fire department's not there anymore and there were to be a different user of the property? Obviously, in that case, we'd want to, kind of revisit that capacity discussion and probably have that additional capacity, if there is some, be applied towards the township. So legal counsel worked on preparing a draft. We shared that with the fire district and the township. The township actually came back with some proposed red line changes that you have at your seat. In large part, I think that we're agreeable to the changes. I think legal counsel looked at them this afternoon, is working on a few more tweaks, but essentially the township's asking for us to kind of have a baseline amount of sewer capacity that would be used based on the current water flow rates, at least on a monthly basis. It's around 6 residential equivalent units, so not a ton, but still some. So they're looking for us to kind of establish a baseline over a period of a year. If there is a future expansion or change in use, that would obviously be up to the township, assuming they approve that and the capacity was actually going to be more than that baseline or goes above 115%, then the additional capacity would count towards the township in the future. So assuming you don't have any heartburn or concerns with those particular proposed changes, we're going to continue to work with the township and fire department to finalize that. And if it's ready to go on Monday, we'll have it before you. But wanted to get your feedback, 1, on connecting it all, 2, using our capacity, and 3, whether or not there's an interest in waiving the connection fees as the fire department's requested.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the Saugatuck.
Discussion only.
Just discussion today. Yep.
I do that too, Chris. Thank you for doing that.
Gonna finish this.
I know. Questions for us?
Yeah, no, I'm in support of this. I mean, basically, as a city engineer determined that it's going to be equivalent to about 1 to 2 residential units. We've got the capacity available, so no issue there. I would recommend approving the connection and waiving the connection fees as has been requested. When I first learned about this several years ago, that the fire barn doesn't have a sewer connection, I was like, really? So this is a good correction to that issue. So.
The other, Joe?
No, same thing. I'm fine waiving the fees. My biggest concern would be, the downside protection of the capacity goes, over what we're anticipating, and they got the language in there. So as long as the township agrees to, if there's a change in use and the capacity goes up to the roof, that they're on the hook for it. I'm good.
Right. Anything else?
Well, I mean, if this is consistent with the discussions that Councilmember Clark and Gardner and Ryan have been having with their counterparties over sewer and water, if this is consistent and is, okay. I got kind of okay,
Well, there's much larger discussion.
okay,
I don't think that anything that we're discussing has a material impact
okay.
on this,
Okay.
except for the provision of capacity. And as I said, I think, Ryan, the attorneys in the township are doing a good job of kind of
Okay.
putting a circuit breaker in there where we're protected. That's
If you three are mindful of those things as we get the red lines done, okay, I'm fine.
Great. Anything else? Okay, we will move on to employee health insurance benefits for fiscal year 26-27, page 34. Welcome, Nikki. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. All right, move to the next slides. To the pretty pictures, there we go. Today, I'm presenting the recommendation for the city's employee health insurance renewal for the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide. In essence, I'm recommending that we renew the current insurance options as they stand, offering both a low deductible plan and the HSA eligible plan. I'm also recommending that we increase the city's HSA contribution by $100 per employee to cover the increased deductible. Next slide. Big picture, last year was the larger decision point. Ryan and I spent some intensive time reviewing options, and in the end, we moved away from a single plan structure and created a menu of plan options. That change allowed employees to choose between lower deductible plans and high deductible HSA qualified plans, depending on their own needs. This year, staff is not recommending another major structural change. The recommendation is to maintain the structure that was put in place last year and avoid unnecessary annual disruption to employees. The renewal cost does include an increase. The current priority health renewal reflects an 11.91% increase, or approximately $18,359 annually. The annual premium would increase from $154,000 some to about $172,000. That increase was reviewed as part of the budget process, and the budget includes the anticipated increase. Next slide. As you can see, the employees are taking advantage of all these options. The current elections show that it's being done in a balanced way. Most employees selected the HSA eligible high deductible plans, but there were a few that took the lower deductible options as well. So that is part of why the staff is recommending that the city maintain both options the way they were set up last year. Next slide. To review it, we sat down with what Gallagher sent, comparing the available plans for both the city cost and the employee impact. That review included a variety of criteria, all the usual things, plan design, deductibles, etc. There were alternatives that produced some savings in these certain areas, but we did not feel that the savings were significant enough to justify another major plan disruption for our employees. Next slide. Again, I'm also recommending, because there will be an increase in the deductible, the high deductible, that we increase what we contribute to the employees by $100 per person, taking it up to $2,600. This is a modest increase, but it helps maintain the value of the benefit and helps offset the deductible increase for employees enrolled in the high deductible plan. We also want to point out that it's going to help with retention and recruitment, that we pay 100% of the employee premium. This is an important part of our compensation package and supports
retention and recruitment, especially in a competitive municipal employment environment. Say that several times fast. This recommendation is not just about the premium number. It is about maintaining a competitive benefit package, preserving employee choice, and avoiding unnecessary disruption while still being mindful of cost. Last slide. Not last slide, the next slide. In closing, in summary, staff recommends renewing the existing plan offerings, maintaining the current benefit structure, and increasing the HSA contribution from 2,500 to 2,600. And this is what we're here to talk about. If you keep going, there's actually detail on what we looked at. So that's for you to dig into.
All right. Questions for Nikki? Thank you, Nikki.
I just have a question, Nikki. Is it fairly common in communities like this to pay 100% of the premium?
Yes, in fact, next time around, we'll do the 152 exemption. And I checked the Cal Lake, I checked this Saugatuck Township and the fire department, and they all are 100%. Douglas has some small choice, like $60 per month for single, etc. And that will show up in the next one, in the next workshop.
Thank you.
Other questions, Ralph?
Yeah, I'm in support of this proposal. Question is, we understand which plans the employees have chosen. My question would be, how do the employees feel about what's being offered to them? We think this increases retention. We hope this attracts potential employees. But the actual plan itself, I know Priority Health, I'm a Priority Health member. You get a survey occasionally from Priority Health asking about your service. I'd be wondering, how does the team actually feel about what they're being offered? I mean, do they view this as being good? I'm just curious. I'm asking. This is something that we ask at our company all the time. They evaluate how we feel about the plan. So that's my question. We may not know, but this is something to put out there to make sure that we're also meeting our employees' needs by asking them directly.
Yeah, I think we've received, feedback at various levels that really indicates, obviously last year, like as Nikki indicated, was a big change, right? We had the same deductible for years, 500 for an individual, 1,000 for the family. That doubled last year on the low deductible option, right? I say that because deductibles have changed over time. Obviously, like I said, having the additional HSA option, we did a full presentation and really laid all of that out and some of the pros and cons to the staff. And it was, majority took advantage of that. There were some folks who chose not to. And I know a lot of employers have been finding ways to essentially force staff towards that HSA. So I think the feedback that I received with staff appreciated having the option. There were staff that appreciated having the option to have dollars put into an HSA, that if they didn't use that they were going to continue to have those dollars available. And I think the biggest piece of feedback that we've received that's been good from a recruitment perspective and a retention perspective, as Nikki mentioned, is frankly paying 100% of those health insurance costs. Because when we have employees that may be looking elsewhere and may see a little bit more money available, when they take into account the fact that, hey, you know what, you're also going to pay for your health insurance over there and your premiums, right? Or maybe you got to put, a certain amount or required amount into an HSA or something like that. Well, that starts to change the equation. And so that's a very nice benefit that we offer that does come at a cost, right? We made some big changes last year that, the employees gave on part of it. Obviously, we continue to pay a huge portion with 100% of the premiums. That helped stem that curve a little bit, and so it wasn't going as high, and obviously across the board still seeing double digit increases. That's frustrating, right? I mean, but that's all small employers. That isn't just us. Like Nikki mentioned, all the other entities around us saw the same thing because we're all small. I mean, that was the state deciding those percentage increases. But I hope that gives you a little bit of flavor. I think staff are happy with what we're offering, as well as the fact that there's not a premium that they're paying towards it. I mean, those two are two big things.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, Ryan. But the other question I would ask is Priority Health the right choice for our employees? As being a part of that group, you know, there's Blue Cross Blue Shield, there's Aetna, there's United, there's several other options available, and Priority Health is the major player. So I'm just asking, you know, does this meet their needs from a medical
Yep.
standpoint for their family and their individual situations? The financial thing is great.
Yep,
Completely
I
appreciate it.
haven't heard any
Okay.
concerns with that. I think this was actually the first year that we had actually had some somewhat comparable rate offerings with other firms. Like for a while, Blue Care Network was coming in much higher even than what Priority Health was offering. And then this HAP option, we looked it up, and it's a kind of a newer option
I have
that's out
opinions, I have
there.
opinions about HAP.
Yeah, and so we're like, does anybody even take this? Would that be something we want to evaluate looking into? And so I haven't heard one negative concern about Priority Health or
Good.
in-network coverage or anything like
Okay,
that.
good.
So
Thank
at
you.
least add that, yep.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Nikki. And now we will talk about our property and liability insurance renewal, page 47 of our packet.
All right, so this item is the city's annual property and liability insurance renewal through the Michigan Municipal League Liability and Property Pool. The property coverage is from July 15 of 2026 through July 15 of 27. The renewal maintains the city's primary liability limits, including 5 million dollar limits and municipal general liability, personal injury, public officials liability, and automobile liability. The annual premium is increased from 36,775 to 4467, which is an increase of 3,692. The renewal also reflects updated property values and payroll exposure. Property values increased from approximately 4.56 million to approximately 4.73 million, and payroll exposure increased approximately 821,000 to just over $1 million. The city's vehicle count remains unchanged at 11 vehicles. The city is also expected to receive a post-renewal dividend of approximately 1,210 after the renewal premium is paid. Jim Newman could not be here tonight like he normally would be. We're hoping that he can make it to the regular meeting. He said he's going to be on the other side of the state, so the hope is yes, but I also want to be cognizant that it might not happen. But I did ask him about the increase, and he indicated that part of the increase is due to the increase in property values, and the rest is related to a significantly hardened reinsurance market. He noted that national losses from events like wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods have affected reinsurance rates. He also noted that the city has excellent credits because of its long-term favorable claims history with MML, and that has helped keep the premium stable over the years. This premium has been built into our budget under insurance expenditures, so no budget amendment is needed. This is being presented today for council's review and discussion before it takes to formal action. If council has questions they would like reviewed with MML, staff can work with Jim before the regular meeting, so get those questions to me or to Ryan, and I'll reach out to Jim and have him prepared for that or get answers.
Russ?
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you. The question I would have for Jim is, does MML offer a risk review for its members? In other words, because this is our liability insurance, do they come in and do a risk review to say, okay, you're at risk, you could potentially be at risk here, you know, and many businesses go through this too. That would be something I wonder if they offer as a service, whether it's a fee or just part of their normal, just to make sure that we're not unnecessarily exposed.
Fee or free? Got it.
Anything else? Thank you, Nikki, okay, thank you, Nikki. Moving on to the budget amendments.
Hi, it's so nice to see you all.
Been a while.
Nikki's been busy this
Yeah.
preparing, so.
I bet you love year end.
Oh, yes. So this is just our final year-end budget amendment for the current fiscal year. We just did the broader budget planning review back in March where we dove in depth into what we had expected versus what we currently expected. And so this amendment isn't intended to reopen that process. We already did it and it was intense and we survived. This is more of a targeted year in alignment and compliance pass. The primary focus is to make sure there's enough money budgeted in the areas where spending is running higher than expected. It also updates revenue estimates and reflects how much of the city's available funds are expected to be used this year. The goal here is to address the specific areas where an amendment is needed, so we do not end the year over budget in those accounts. A few patterns that are worth pointing out. First, several revenues are coming in stronger than previously budgeted, including permit fees, Oval Beach fees, interest earning, and several smaller revenue categories. Second, some changes reflect operational reality changing during the year. The clearest example is Oval's concession. Since the concession operation is now being run by Saga Taco under a lease arrangement, it is no longer functioning as a separate city-operated activity. As a result, anything concession budget is being folded into the broader Oval Beach operation for the next fiscal year, and the related revenue and expenditure lines are being adjusted accordingly in this amendment for the rest of this fiscal year. Third, several spending lines are being increased simply because actual costs ended up higher than originally expected. These are not necessarily new projects or new priorities. They are adjustments that make the budget match what the city is actually spending before the fiscal year ends on June 3rd. Finally, some of our changes reflect variances. So overall, I would categorize this as a targeted year-end amendment, stronger revenues in some areas, reduced expected fund balance use, operational adjustments where activity changed, and selected expenditure increases to avoid ending the year over budget in specific accounts.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Well done.
Yeah, great summary.
Yeah, well done, Nicole.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no questions, we will move on to your last agenda item, which is the investment update on page 76.
So you guys have seen this before, and it doesn't change that much. We're invested in CDs, treasury bills, and my class. Total invested funds are approximately 13.3 million compared with about 13.7 million at our last report. As discussed in April, I was more aggressive about moving available cash into investments so the city could earn additional interest rather than leaving excess funds idle in the bank account. As operating cash needs changed, especially near the year end, some of those invested funds needed to be moved back to maintain the proper bank balance for regular city operations, payroll, payables, and other cash flow needs. So the reduction in invested funds does not reflect a loss or a concern with the portfolio. It reflects the normal movement of cash between investments and the bank account as we balance interest earnings with liquidity needs. There are a few routine changes since the last report. 2 CDs matured. One of those was moved into CDARS. One was rolled over for another year. Consumers Credit Union is new to us, and you'll see that I spread their portion over major streets, local streets, and the motor pool. And the Treasury bill matured a couple days ago and was rolled forward for another year. One minor correction is that my maturity date says 26. It's actually 2027. Overall, the investment mix remains heavily weighted towards the pooled funds for liquidity, with CDs making up a slightly larger share than the last report. Treasury bills remain a small portion of the overall portfolio. That's it.
Great, questions? That's all you got?
Yeah, yeah.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nikki.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, well, that takes us to our second public comment period. If there's anyone online who wishes to make a public comment, please raise your Zoom hand. I don't see anyone. So that takes us to item 9, closed session, and if I could get somebody to make.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to move into closed session for the following reasons pursuant to MCL 15.268A to complete the annual personnel evaluation of the city manager and pursuant to MCL 15.268E to consult with the city attorney regarding the ongoing lawsuits filed against the city by Dune Ridge, captioned Dune Ridge versus City of Saugatuck, case number 22-65713-CK, and Dune Ridge versus City of Saugatuck, case number 21-64709-CZ regarding trial or settlement strategy, which is discussed in an open meeting, would have a detrimental financial effect.
Second.
So roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Stan.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. All right, we are back in open session, and that takes us to council comments. Chris, you want to start?
Yes, thank you. It was good discussion today. I think we got a long ways on a variety of financial things. I do have a couple of things maybe we could have get some information on how the Saga Taco is doing at Oval Beach. And then before I left for Florida, the police department, Allegan County, had done a beautiful report on how long it took to get there in places and everything. And last time it was out, it was just one of those data dumps again. So maybe they could go back to that format that they had before. And then can we find out about anything, any legal lawsuits that we have hanging over us?
Okay.
The tricky.
Russ?
Yeah, thank you. Two things. Well, actually, three things. One's kind of fun. I've had one resident ask me if we're getting any statistics on the usage of the wilds.
Why?
Just curious as to how many people are actually using it. I don't think we have any measurements out there, so I just put that on the plate just to, I've had, this is not, that's the most recent one. I've had someone else ask me before, hey, do we know how many people are actually going out there and using it? So I said, no, we don't, but I'll ask. Two is I had a neighbor mention that the Hoffman Culver Street stairs, those are the round stairs that come off the corner by the church, are beginning to shift. And I drove by it the other day and there's some erosion taking place. We probably need to have those looked at sooner rather than later, because if we lose those are pretty iconic. And then also the stairs going down towards Twin Gables are also showing some wear and tear. So I'd like to have those probably put on someone's list to take a look at from a safety standpoint, as well as we want to make sure that they're not lost. Also too is kind of fun. The other day I was looking out the back window of the house and I said, there's an albino squirrel out back of the house. And my wife says, what time of the day is it? Have you had a drink? And I said, well, no. Well then Steve Boyd over at Justin Heath posted a picture of it on his Facebook page. So there's an albino red squirrel that's in our neighborhood. So if you're wanting to see something interesting, anyway, take a look at his Facebook page. So albino red squirrel, something I've never seen. So.
Yeah.
Good meeting. Appreciate everybody's input tonight, and I'll reserve my comments till.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Gregory?
Yeah, I just to Russ's comment about Saugatuck Wilds. I used to go to the nature preserve, Mildred over the nature preserve, and just to get away from everything in town. But you know that's a lot more popular now. So I do go to the wilds, and I'd say maybe once a week. I drive out there, and almost every time I go out there, I see at least one or two cars there, Russ. So I know it's getting some kind of use. Just to let you know. Also, I will say today's the first day for music in the park. It had to be canceled because of the rain, but the band will be performing at Wicks Park tonight. So if you guys want to go see a good band, I won't be there, but I just want to let you know that they did have to bring it indoors. So that's all.
Great. Lauren?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Okay, my only thing is, so it looks like June 30th, Tuesday, June 30th is picnic day.
Yep.
I'll get a sign up sheet, but I know Lauren did a great fruit salad last time. We had burgers or brats and dogs, but people can sign up for what they want. And that'll be fun. And I think that, also I just thanks to the staff, great, reports and,
Yes.
and packet today. So, with that, who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.